just before Earth Days, could we, where's Charles de Souza? He's in the audience. I wouldn't want to hold you up. Would you like to come forward, Councillor Mullin, because you have to get back to Queen's Park. Appreciate your presence.
Yeah, I'll be for some question period now. It starts at 10:30. So.
Susan,
Councillor Mullin, you putting forward the motion first?
Yes, I think that you would read the motion.
I'm wondering if Council would support bringing the motion forward at this time so that Charles has a motion to leave with.
Yeah.
Members of Council have had the motion in front of them, and it's been moved and seconded by Councillor Corbison. So if we could just get it moved up, and then you could say a few words, and then I'll speak to it. So I need a motion to bring it forward.
Okay, do you want to speak first or read the motion?
No, I have to bring the motion forward first.
Oh, just bring it forward. Yeah, okay. It's a lengthy one.
I don't think it needs to be read out. All members of Council
have copies.
Have it before them unless they want it read. And Charles has a copy of the motion and met with him on Friday. So,
do you want to just read the conclusion of the motion?
Okay. Moved by Councillor Mullin and seconded by Councillor Corbison. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Mississauga believes that the Clarkson airshed study is too stressed. Airshed is too stressed to sustain the introduction of any new industrial activity or undertaking of any kind, including a natural gas-fired power generating facility within the Clarkson area, which will cause emissions into the environment, irrespective of whether the nature and volume of such emissions may comply with any existing provincial regulations or standards. 2. The City of Mississauga calls upon the Province of Ontario to impose a moratorium on granting approvals, whether through a certificate of approval or through any other process, for the construction and operation of any new industrial activity or undertaking of any kind in the Clarkson area of Mississauga. The City of Mississauga calls upon the Government of the Province of Ontario and the Minister of Energy and Infrastructure, the Ministry of the Environment and the Ontario Power Authority to assure the residents of the City of Mississauga that in current and future procurement process for the construction of a natural gas-fired power generating facility in the southwest Greater Toronto area, the restricted locations will be extended to include the Clarkson area, so that no such power generating facility will be constructed in the Clarkson airshed study area. Those.
Okay. Well, good morning, and thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here and be able to continue to speak on behalf of the people of Mississauga South. I'd like to begin by congratulating Councillor Mullin on introducing today's resolution. The possibility of a new power plant coming to our community has been an issue of great concern for quite some time now. I'd also like to take this opportunity to congratulate Council once again on passing the Lakeview resolution. It sent a message that the community was united in its desire to protect the area, and it helped me to make that case at Queen's Park. Like you, I celebrated the closing and demolition of the old Lakeview coal plant. Tearing it down and prohibiting the development of future power plants on our lakefront was the right thing to do. And it's made conversations on waterfront revitalization possible. Nevertheless, the GTA is growing. Even with the Ontario government's priorities of increasing green renewable energy, aggressive conservation targets, and making enhancements to long-range transmission lines, there's no doubt that more reliable local peak power is needed to accommodate new homes and businesses. I know that the City of Mississauga recognizes this also, and it's doing its part by hosting a new plant in East Mississauga. Since this work began to locate a new gas plant, I've been assisting the community in pushing for better emission standards for any new plant, and we've had success. Because of our combined efforts, the new plant will be among the cleanest in North America and run for less than half the time. Community involvement was crucial for helping the OPA recognize the sensitivities in our community. Yesterday, I also had the pleasure of presenting a petition to the legislature on this very issue, and I will continue to do so. As you know, South Mississauga is a very engaged community, for which I'm thankful. They've really helped me to communicate their concerns to my colleagues, as well as to the OPA. Credit is also due here to Councillor Mullin, who has been active in building support for the petition and has been very vocal on these issues. I especially appreciate her efforts because, as many of you know, I'm a lifelong resident of South Mississauga. I grew up in Sherway, and I walked to schools in Lakeview at the very doorstep of the worst polluter in the GTA. And I'm raising my family in Clarkson. For over 20 years now, Clarkson's been my home. So, I know firsthand that Mississauga still carries heavy burdens, especially in Clarkson. That's why I'm here today. And that's why I've been hosting and attending numerous community meetings over the past few months. As a resident, I share the concerns of my constituents. We have enjoyed successes, but we also face challenges. A major obstacle for the community lies in the fact that part of Clarkson industrial lands, the Southdown District, is zoned to allow for power generation. As recently as a year and a half ago, after the Clarkson airshed study was released, the city completed its review of the district, and more area was zoned industrial and was maintained for power generation designation. In addition, the city has already granted permits to proponents seeking to build new power plants. This is significant, especially because the directive that initiated the RFP states, and I quote, "The facility selected under this process shall be required to undergo all local, municipal, and environmental approvals to ensure it meets or exceeds regulated standards, including those of air quality." Clearly, under the terms of the RFP, zoning and municipal permitting play an important role in the OPA's decision as to where to build a new power facility. Even though the RFP spans numerous communities from Oakville to Etobicoke, it's no wonder that 3 out of the 4 proponents have chosen sites in my neighborhood of Clarkson. So, I commend the councillor for bringing this motion forward, and I thank the council for voting on it today. It's never too late. If this resolution passes, it will signal that the council has reconsidered their position on new power generation. I share our community's concerns about the cumulative effect of emissions in the area. I, too, do not want another power plant in South Mississauga. Thank you again for inviting me to speak. I appreciate your consideration on this crucial matter. I look forward to taking the results of today's vote with that. Please vote.
Thank you, Charles. Councillor Mullin.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Charles, for coming today. As you know, we had a public meeting that we had to ask OPA to have within our community. Isn't that sad? The mayor attended that meeting, and I thought one of her salient points was that after the Clarkson airshed study had been completed, we then should have been exempted, and I think that's the key. I think at that meeting, it was clear that over 30 years in our community, we've been trying to deal with the air quality within our community. And it also came out at that meeting, isn't it unfortunate, isn't it sad, that it's been the citizens, not the Ministry of the Environment, who have made a difference in the air quality in our community. I go back to when, and you were around when they wanted to burn PCBs at St. Lawrence. I came on council when they wanted to burn garbage at St. Lawrence. Then we had the expansion of the Petro-Canada plant. So we have had over the years our issues with regards to air quality, and it was the citizens who got a baghouse at St. Lawrence. It was the citizen who's got SO2 technology at Petro-Canada. It was the citizens who dealt with the issue of the air quality, the odor, what was happening in our water to finally get that resolved. So it's been a constant struggle, and I think we can probably look at many aspects of Mississauga and see that it's the citizens who have made a difference in terms of trying to improve air quality. Following the Clarkson airshed study, and it's very important to note that in the Clarkson airshed study, what it showed over those 22 months is that the PM 2.5, which is probably the most serious issue that we are dealing with was elevated at least 4 out of the 6 stations for the 22 months. If a gas plant is approved in our area, it will be the largest emitter of all of the industries in my community. That is extremely significant. The Clarkson airshed study came out of 4 different aspects of it, and the Clarkson Airshed Advisory Committee was formed. Nothing really has taken place. As you know, part 4 of that study indicated that the ministry was to go out to the industries and ask the industries and work with the industries to go beyond compliance. We have had nothing, no action has been taken place. As you know, there were 2 significant in the airshed study, one of them being Aquilin, which came out of the airshed study. This is a suspected carcinogen. This was supposed to be studied. We were supposed to get information back on that. Today, we still haven't got that. So I'm asking my colleagues today, there's something very wrong with this picture. To use a pun, something smells. There's the whole process has in my view gone off the rail, and we really need to bring it back. The Ministry of Environment is there to protect us. If the Clarkson airshed study had not been done, had not shown the facts of what is happening in our community, then we would have to live with the power plant. But the fact is that we have that information, we have that airshed study. The mayor has indicated we should have been exempted, we should have been exempted. Hopefully this motion today will go a long way to making it known that this council now takes a look at an airshed study that was done not by the community, not by this council, but by the Ministry of the Environment. Surely that should have some profound statement to make for my community. It's interesting, I was looking at the Our Future Mississauga strategic plan, and in it, and I'll read it because I thought it was very apropos, health and the environment. The health of the people and the health of the environment are inherently linked and are a 21st century imperative. We need to think of both when reshaping our living environments. This relates to strategies that enable healthy lifestyles and that secure a clean, sustainable environment. That's what we're trying to do here today. So I would ask for a recorded vote and ask for your support.
Thank you. Councillor Corbison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I speak to the motion as a seconder. First of all, Charles, thank you very much for being here today. Every time we have an issue, regardless of its magnitude, you're always out there for the community, and I very much appreciate it as the other councillor from Mississauga South. You did speak to, and I think that part's going to be a somewhat uphill of the planning as of today in the Clarkson area. As you know, and as this council knows, I went through the same thing with the Lowerland site, which is also in, I say Mississauga South because it's in Ward 1. At that time, and I think it's important for everybody to remember that these power plants came on for this council to deal with and our staff to deal with very quickly in the macro picture. In fact, when they closed the coal generating station, gas power plants weren't mentioned back then. So it was a new phenomenon for us to deal with, for our staff to deal with. The province, we were playing catch up with what the province had in mind. When we gave it to our staff and we finally were able to come up and look at the rezoning of these lands, as you know, it was too late. We went to the board, and unfortunately, and I think it's very unfortunate that the Ontario Municipal Board said that the rights of the landowner trumped the environmental concerns that were raised, not only by the city, by the Region of Peel, Medical Officer of Health, etc. So I think the board made it very clear where they were going. Again, notwithstanding the decisions that have been made, I hope we're not going to create 2 bad situations in Mississauga South. We've got the 280 megawatt plant. We know what the results of the airshed study are, and I think it's time that we really started thinking about not only our generation, but the next generation. So once again, Charles, the best of luck as you carry your message forward to your colleagues at Queen's Park. Thank you.
Councillor Parrish.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be supporting the motion. I want to give you a couple of other messages to take with you, Charles, because you're pretty good at it. When the new standards come in important that the Ministry of the Environment start looking retroactively at what they're going to do. Try and go back and clean up some of the mess. Standards are no good if they aren't retroactive to a certain extent. Secondly, I think the ministry allows Dofasco and St. Lawrence Cement and everybody else to keep belching out all kinds of pollutants, and they haven't done anything about trying to stop that. Thirdly, I think the ministry is making bad choices lately on these tenders by saying the cheapest, lowest bid gets the plant, and that's wrong. One of the most important things they should be inserting into that, and if you can do that at this stage, is the cleanest, best technology, the one that doesn't take lake water out, warm it up, and throw it back in. It's got to be the absolutely best and cleanest. If it's slightly more expensive, I think that's what we're going to have to live with. So that is an important message to take back. It's the cheapest, it's not the best. And I think it's also important, Councillor Corbison mentioned the OMB. Oakville and Burlington are building houses faster than you can shake a stick at, and councils are trying to stop it, and the OMB is pushing them through. A lot of the pollution down there is coming from the thousands of cars that are pouring into Toronto along the Queenie. So you have a few problems on your plate, and I don't want to heap any more on, but I just hope you take some of those messages back as well.
Thank you for coming, Charles, and as you've been very attentive to this issue, and you certainly were at the public meeting that was held in which 200 couldn't even get into the meeting that night. So you can tell that that community is really. And what is special about as well is it's amazing to come in contact with the number of professional people that really know what they're talking about in regard to the environment. It's not in my backyard. When you hear them present their case, it's very professional, and they have a lot of depth into the issue. So Councillor Mullin is fortunate to have those people there. My position as mayor is very clear. In fact, I announced it the day that Mr. Smitherman came out to turn the Lakeview land over. I said then, just remember that the airshed study is now issued, your airshed study, meaning the provincial airshed study, not a study done by the city of Mississauga. And any plant that would be considered in the Clarkson area, he should forget about it. And I made it very clear that day at the official opening. I think Councillor Mullin wasn't there, but Councillor Corbison was there. I made it very clear, and that is my stand now, that until the province deals with the airshed study. When the airshed study was issued, I was present, along with Councillor Mullin, the day it was delivered to us. And Mr. Budds, who was the Peel-Halton representative at the time, certainly indicated that something had to be done. And they felt very strongly that something could be done by the Ministry of the Environment, as Mr. Budd said, setting up meetings with the industry that is there now, and even though they meet the standards of the province, that they would meet with them, and I offered my assistance to meet with them and convince them to even decrease the amount of emissions that they are producing now, even though they're in line with the standards. That was going to these industries and asking them to spend money to improve this situation, even though they met the standards of the province. To me, that was a very progressive move, and I offered to help. That they have not done, because I've visited industries that the Ministry of Environment did not visit them at all. Unfortunately, Mr. Budds retired. It's true. But he clearly indicated to us at that meeting that the situation in the Clarkson airshed area was very, very serious. Nothing could be done about the Queen Elizabeth to any great degree unless we put a barrier up across the Queen Elizabeth to prevent people going through Mississauga. So the Ministry of Environment has let us down very badly. They set up a committee that accomplished nothing. They were supposed to set up air gathering data equipment in the area, and that hasn't been done. They really have let us down. And therefore, when I mentioned to the Premier 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, I said to him, we will battle this because the airshed study is not, which you folks presented, and nothing has been done to improve the situation. The city of Mississauga has been very responsible in regard to the generation of power. Some cities would be considered banning them, and we did not. We worked with the OPA, we worked with OPG, we worked with all the different ministries to come up with a plan that would help, because we need hydro just like everybody else, and especially the industries in Mississauga in that area are very large users of hydro. So my position has been very clear that the airshed study has to be dealt with before any industrial development occurs in that area that is going to increase the already loaded pollutants in the area. And I mean, it was the ministry that told us that. So the Minister of the Environment, I phoned him this week, and because he has to come out as the Minister of the Environment and meet with the people of the southern part of Mississauga and explain to them why the ministry has failed us in this regard. Failed us very, very badly. And they even set up a committee, and the committee has not been able to accomplish it. I'm also very concerned that one of the largest polluters in the area for years, St. Lawrence Cement, sold their land and surplus land to one of the proponents. And I know that Councillor Mullin has expressed that, as well as myself, to the St. Lawrence management, that they would sell the land knowing full well, being even on the committee that was appointed by the Ministry of the Environment. So it is a very disappointing, and I appreciate the strong stand that you're taking, Charles. The Premier is well aware of it, as you know, and I think this is a Premier issue in regard to the decision. I'm hoping that this petition, and the petition as well as the resolution, will firmly, if it's unanimously adopted by Council, that will be our stand. And we will seek ways and means of making it happen, that no additional emissions will be admitted into the airshed, in the Clarkson airshed area. I agree that you live there. I'll tell you, the people that live there are very concerned about it. But they wouldn't have been nearly as concerned if the airshed study had not been issued by the province. That's the thing that nailed down any possibility of putting any more pollutants in that area. And it was their study, not ours. So thank you for coming. And I'll now ask for any further comments? Councillor Prentice.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'll be brief. Charles, thank you for taking time away from your busy schedule to be here today. The point I want to stress is the standards, the emission standards of the province are too low. And I mean, I sympathize with the Clarkson situation. I've heard about the stressed airshed study ever since, or the stressed airshed, I should say, ever since Councillor Mullin was elected in 1985 because of the businesses that are down there. This has been an unending battle for the two councillors from the south of Mississauga. And I think any one of us that have industrial areas in our wards are concerned because the provincial standards are simply way, way too low. The city of Mississauga and each of us in our own wards are doing everything we can possibly do. We are pushing the economy of power, planting, naturalization, sometimes at great cost to the taxpayers to do these extra initiatives to ensure that at the city and its operation, our residents and the operations of their properties, we're doing all we can do to try and clean up the air. So the bottom line for me is the province has to relook at their standards. And if some of these companies have to go and dig in their pockets to ensure that their emissions are appropriate, then they have to do that. We are all doing that. So that's the message I want to give you, and thank you again for being here today.
Yes, and as the citizens are well aware of, we have one that we didn't want, but it's been given full approval. Whether they are able, whether the proponent is able to proceed is another thing. But we have one. We also have the one on Gormley Drive, which is really on our border. It's more or less in Mississauga. And we have one at the airport as well, a small one. So I think we've been very responsible in accepting. We weren't happy with Aurora Land because it's right in the midst of the residential area. Unacceptable to me. It was the OPA that approved it, with very little knowledge that we had of it at the time. So we've done our share, and we're not prepared to accept another one in the airshed, Clarkson airshed study area. That's the message we hope you'll take to Queen's Park.
It's loud and clear.
You've read the motion. It was moved by Councillor Mullin, second by Councillor Corbeson. I ask the clerk for a recorded vote.
All those in favor of the motion, please stand. Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
And nobody's...
Thank you.